everybody and welcome back, welcome to my channel. My name is Shaq and today I'm going to be recommending you some books based on my hair transformations. I recognise that this isn't probably the traditional way of recommending books to people, but alas, I like my hair, it's one of the best qualities about me, and I thought I would show you some of the phases it's been through, some of the transformations that it's had over the years and recommend you some books along the way. The first stage that my hair was really in was when I was a baby, right? No, I wasn't at the hairdressers with some foils in, and I also wasn't doing any crazy TikTok trends where I turn my hair a different colour. No, your girl was bald. I was very much so looking like a little baby boy when I was little because I had no hair for quite a long time. Eventually, we grew some hair, as you can probably tell. I have way too much of it now, but it took a long time for me to actually grow hair. And I'm sure that my mum was like, did I give birth to a potato or a little girl? Because she's bald. So I decided to make my first recommendation me being a bald little babby because I kind of, associate that time in my life, although I don't really remember it, I do associate it being quite of like a carefree time because I was a kid and I didn't really care that I had no hair. I didn't really care that everyone else had hair and I didn't. It was just the fact that, I had no hair. No thoughts, head empty of hair. So I thought I'd recommend two books actually that encapsulate this feeling for me of being a child and being carefree and just being curious about the world rather than judgmental. These two books are both George and Rick by Alex Gino. Alex Gino is a non-binary queer author who writes a lot of middle grade fiction about teens and children who are just going through it, okay? George follows our main character, none other than George, who would really like to play Charlotte in Charlotte's Web in their little production at school. George was assigned male at birth and obviously Charlotte is a woman's role, and although George is said no by a lot of teachers, they kind of fight past that and want to be on the stage as Charlotte from Charlotte's Web. Rick is kind of set in the same school, I believe, because the main character from George is in this, and we follow Jeff and Rick. Rick is basically Jeff's friend, but Jeff is a bully and Rick knows that what he's doing is wrong, but he can't really just stand up for people when he doesn't know what right and wrong is. He doesn't know whether he should just mind his own business and make things worse or just to sit back and also make things worse. These both, for me, definitely unlocked part of my childhood that I didn't even know that I could get back. Reading these definitely did bring back that carefree, curious vibe about the world, and I would highly recommend these to anyone who wants to know more about LGBT+ issues in a more fluffy, light-hearted, middle grade kind of way. They're really easy to read, really easy to follow and consume, and they're just extremely political, and I love it. Children's books that are political, we stand. Moving on from bold baby Shaq, I've kind of decided to lump the next two transitions of my hair in the same category and recommend kind of the same book. The first proper hair transformation that I really had, where I was intentionally changing my hair to look a certain way and to give off the kind of vibe, I'd say my first intentional vibe hair check was definitely when I tried to pull off scene hair, and I described it here as failed scene hair because it wasn't really actual scene hair because my mum wouldn't let me cut it in a certain way. She wouldn't let me have bangs, she wouldn't let me touch it basically. And whenever I went to the hairdresser, I was like, I want scene hair, I want bangs, and I want this and I want that. My hair just doesn't work that way, and so the hairdresser just kind of did her job and was like, here you go, have a mess. The next phase, the third one, I would like to kind of put hand in hand with this hair transformation to recommend a certain book, was when I actually dip dyed my hair blue. I was still in school, and although it was semi-permanent and it wasn't going to last very long, we didn't use any bleach or anything. My mum was too scared to put bleach on my hair. But I had this really turquoise blue ends, and it was kind of a look. And I was rocking it. I would literally do this again. I would definitely have blue dip dye again.
Hello, editing Shaki here. I totally blanked out that I actually did do this again, and I thought I would show you because I feel like the results were a lot more permanent, and the results were a lot more you could see them, if that makes sense. I tried my hardest to find pictures from the time of the original blue dip dye, but you just can't see it because we didn't bleach underneath. But the second time I did do the blue dip dye job, we did bleach underneath, and you can see it a lot better, and it led to my accent to Ombre, which I'll talk about a little bit later, but yeah, there you go.
So I think the reason why I wanted to pair these two phases of my hair together was because they scream the same kind of message, and why I was making my hair this way, it kind of had the same vibe. I was screaming to be different. I was screaming to let everyone know that I wasn't like other girls. Both of these phases in my life, I thought I was cool and different and I didn't want to be like everyone else. It was definitely some sort of internalized misogyny and sexism, and the people I was dating and being friends with at the time, they're mostly men, and I just kind of wanted to not be like other girls, and I thought, not being like other girls, was having your hair dyed and cut like a scene girl from 2012 Tumblr. This book recommendation kind of comes from a place of love and saying, okay, you may not want to be like everyone else, but there's different ways of doing so, rather than having like all of this internalized misogyny and sexism. Now, this recommendation is for me at the time. I want to just give myself this book and be like, read about this, educate yourself. But also, if you're feeling that kind of way, this book may help you break out of that. And that is The Nowhere Girls by Amy Reid. I think I have talked about this so many times on my channel. I think if you had like a drinking game for watching my videos, every time I mention this book, definitely take a shot, because you would probably be drunk just on me mentioning this book. The reason why I mention this book and recommend it so profusely to people who watch me and also people in real life as well is because it did so many things to me. It was the first instance, especially in fiction, that I'd seen intersectional feminism. It really made me dip my toes into feminist fiction and also feminist non-fiction as well, and just kind of learning more about intersectionalism rather than white feminism. It was the first time I really sat down with myself and I thought, okay, so I am a woman, and that means I have gone through struggles, but because I am a white woman, I certainly do hold some kind of privilege. And this was one of many things in my life at the time that really was the catalyst for me thinking this way. That's why I would recommend it to anyone who's watching this video, because even if you're a man or if you're not a woman, like, just read the damn book. Next, we have a hair transformation that happened when I was fresh out of secondary school. I did dip dye. This is such a, I did dip dye my hair blue in school, but no one really batted an eyelid because it was really unnoticeable because I didn't use bleach. It wasn't super dark, it wasn't super vibrant, but this was like when I properly started to experiment with my hair, and it kind of became quite a lot of my identity. So the first colour I really experimented with when I left school was purple. I think one day I just turned around to my mum, I think I was going through a really bad breakup. I was like, you know what, I want to dye my hair purple. At this point I was really socially anxious and unsure of myself because of this breakup, and my mum thought, you know what, everyone needs to dye their hair after a breakup, let's go get some dye and slap it on your head. The book I'd like to recommend is Autobiography by Christina. This is another queer piece of literature. Can you sense a theme here? But yeah, so I decided to recommend this because this book is kind of like set about being unsure of yourself and being closeted and being scared of your own identity. And because you're so scared of your own identity, you let other people, you know, walk all over you and use you and make you look like a fool. So this is basically surrounding Tanner, who feels all of the emotions that I have just described. He is actually bisexual, which I am also bisexual. So reading this at the time was like revolutionary. I was like, wow, a bi person, not just gay or straight, you know, there's a spectrum. So Tanner is bisexual, and he is still in like a Mormon society, like town thing. His parents no longer practice Mormonism. Mormons? They're not Mormons anymore. So his parents and his family aren't Mormons anymore, but the rest of his society is, and he still goes to a, you know, Mormon school, and so he is not granted with as much like inclusivity or love as he would if he was away from those kinds of people. To get a little bit more like points towards graduation or whatever, I'm not actually sure how this works, he decides to take an extra class where he has to write a book, and this is where he meets Sebastian, the teaching assistant, who is really hot and sexy, and he's all confused. But Sebastian is very much so in the closet, and he has a lot of internalized homophobia that's going on, and he's also still a Mormon, so there's no way that him and Tanner could have a healthy, you know, fleshed out relationship. I read this at the most perfect time in my life because I felt a lot like both Tanner and Sebastian, because although I had come out as bisexual, I came out in bisexual at 2015. Hello, what was that sentence? I came out as bi in 2015, and so I was quite established already in my sexuality, but I was still feeling really lost and anxious, and I noticed that I was engaging in some eating habits that were quite unhealthy, and I just felt like I could find home in these characters, and I really hope that I can provide that for someone else by recommending this book to you. Next, we have by far my favourite hair transformation. My friend at the time actually spent 10 fucking hours doing my hair because it was really long and I wanted it bleached and I wanted it pink. One of my favourite hair transformations was by far when I dyed my hair pink, or when my friend dyed my hair pink for me. At this point, I just came into a lot more self-confidence. I repaired my relationship, my very rocky and complicated relationship with the colour pink, and I had pink hair. I was getting compliments from literally everyone because my hair was like at the start this really hot pink and then faded to a really nice pastel. So my basis of recommendation on my pink hair was because I want to go back to my pink and I'd love to go back to pink, to recommend a book to you that I would love to read again for the very first time. So imagine a magical wizard comes to me in my sleep and says, "Hey Shaq," and I'm like, "What the fuck do you want? I'm sleeping. Can't you see, Gandalf? I'm fucking dreaming." And he's like, "Get up, bitch." Gandalf turns around to me and says, "If you could pick one book off your shelves that you've already read and you could just wipe your memory and read it all over again for the very first time without any prior knowledge, without any emotions, and just have it in your hands as a very first book, what would you pick? And I'll grant you that wish. And that's where this recommendation comes from. Very long-winded answer that didn't need Gandalf or him calling me a bitch, but here we are. Long story short, the book that I would probably reread if I could, like for the very first time, is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn and Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Now, everyone and their mother has probably read this by now, so if you haven't, then definitely do that because it is such a good book, and I don't think I really appreciated it as much on my first read. And if I could read something that I already had read before, like it was the first time, it definitely would be this, and I just appreciate it a bit more, and to get Taylor Jenkins Reid's other books out of my head. Okay, so after Pink came Accidental Ombre, and now I kind of have this Accidental Ombre thing going on right now, except this isn't blonde, it's kind of ginger, and I love it. But this Accidental Ombre happened because I just let my blonde hair grow out, and I wasn't taking as much care of it as I used to be, and I kind of had every intention of dyeing my hair a different colour. So yes, this hair transformation was a happy accident, and it was one of the more chiller hair transformations that I had, and I had it for quite a long time because it was so easy to maintain. For this book recommendation, I would like to kind of like recommend a book on the same basis of like a happy accident, and for this I'm going to probably say The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. This is basically about a very unlikely couple who should not have met but met purely on coincidence. Interestingly, we follow three perspectives of this book. We follow Natasha, whose family are immigrants from Jamaica who are actually being deported the next day. We follow Daniel, who is a hopeless romantic, and we also kind of get a little bit of the universe's perspective as well, which is really interesting, and I love that element, and I really want to read this because it was so interestingly and well done. But yeah, this is a book that is an epitome of the phrase a happy accident. These two characters meet in a meet cute moment. Even if they were like a minute or two like out of their routine, they wouldn't have met. It just happened by coincidence, and I loved that. It wasn't like a romance story for the ages, it was really cute and happened by accident, and I thought that this kind of fit with this hair transformation because my ombre was also a happy accident. But yeah, I just thought that if you wanted books and more things in your life that are happy accidents, then go ahead and read The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. As anyone who actively dyes their hair will know, the same colour can get boring, especially if the colour that you had in your head for a long time was there by accident. So I thought, I am so bored of my hair. Let's go green. I wanted my head full of green. I wanted to be this seaweed mermaid princess with green hair. Did that happen? Kinda. So the end result of this was actually having extremely blonde hair that was kind of yellow, kind of orange, really patchy in places, with green underneath, because I ran out of dye. And I remember being very upset that my hair had gone this way at the start, but actually I grew to love it, and you know, it is the way it is. Like, you know, it was a bad dye job. It's just hair, it grows back, I can just dye over it, and that's what I did. So my book recommendation comes from the fact that I was very bored, and maybe I should have just picked up a book instead. The book that I have found most recently that has cured my boredom has been Pet Sematary by Stephen King. Now this has been mentioned in quite a lot of my uploads so far. I actually read this and vlogged it for a Mother's Day vlog that was up last week, so you can go ahead and watch that if you would like. It's also featured in my Tizzadam Readathon at TBR, and also a book haul that is coming quite soon that also could already be up. I don't know, but it is featured in quite a lot of my uploads that I have done recently. But this book does dive into some really dark themes, so trigger warning for those, like suicide and mental health and grief and stuff like that. Disability isn't handled the best in this book, especially towards the end, and I just thought I'd say that before I started talking about this and why I liked it so much. But I read this really recently, and it just feels right to put it here because how grotesque and how gruesome it is, and its depiction of death and resurrection, really a boredom killer. You will not want to resurrect your boredom after reading this book. Wow, it was so great! And the last book recommendation and last hair transformation I have for you is when I dyed over my blonde green mess. A little bit of a story to come with this hair transformation. I ordered about 16 boxes of this dye, maybe even more, 24 maybe. I just know I needed a lot of it, and I accidentally ordered way too many because I misread the quantity of what I was getting. I still have loads of boxes of this dye, and if I want to ever go back to this hair colour, I can, because it's in my cupboard. So for this, I thought I would recommend to you a book that has stable relationships and characters in it, because brown is a stable, staple hair colour for everyone, trying to cover up the mistakes of their hair. But also it's a nice natural to go back to every now and again. So the book that I'm going to recommend to you for stable relationships, characters, etc, etc, is Get a Life Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I also did a vlog of this, of me reading this for the first time, so I will link that down below and up above if you want to go and check it out. But for me, although the characters are very troubled, they're quite stable. Although Chloe is a chronically ill woman, plus size woman of colour, she is trying to change her need for normalcy with a get a life kind of like bucket list, and she enlists the help of Redford, the like block of flats' supervisor. She asks for his help to fulfill the items on her list, and he obliges and they fall in love, and it's great. Although the characters do have problems, like I've already said, I feel like the relationships that Chloe has with her family and with her friends is quite stable. I think the world right now is so unstable that we kind of want to go into fiction where people are okay, people are stable with happy relationships. So although Chloe and Red's relationship does get a little bit strained at times, as any relationship does in real life and also in fiction as well, she always has her family to fall back on. Although they are a little bit annoying at times, she always has her sisters, and it's really nice to read. It really, really is. Well, there you have it. That concludes my video on book recommendations based on my hair colours and transformations. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe. Wow, what a symphony. I just serenaded you. You have to subscribe now. I will see you next week for my Chain of Iron vlog. I hope to see you then. Hope to see you next week. And I hope in the meantime you enjoy any books that you pick up or any productive activity that you manage to do. And I'll see you then, hopefully. Goodbye.